The first drop of rain means different things to different people. To somebody who's living in London or UK, where they have 300 days a year when it rains, sorry, I exaggerate. I will exaggerate only for the banter, but more like 290 days rain in a year. They hate it. And a schoolboy in India, especially when I was in school, the first drop of rain means that school will start now. And I used to absolutely hate that first drop. But other than that, most people in Bombay, in India, they romanticize rain. It's an Indian thing to do. You might have seen that in Lagan, the movie. And it's because India is a farming state and it has been like this for 10,000 years. So rains are welcome. But having said that, lately the cities have been over-concretized. What I mean to say by that is there was a time when the soil used to absorb the rain. But now the soil has a layer of concrete, which has the absorption capacity of an armored truck. So it absorbs nothing, bugger all. And that's one part. The another part is they have covered some of the drains. So when I was young, we had a mill behind our house in Borivali. And it was a mill that would go on night and day. It would produce cloth. And sometimes if you pass by, the sound of the rhythmic sound of the mill was very beautiful to hear. And there was a brook. When I say brook, it was more like a gutter. But it was a brook that ran into a creek called Gorai. And the Gorai Creek ran into the Arabian Sea. So somebody next door, or rather the apartment next door, they concretized the gutter, closed it up, and created a parking lot on top of that. This resulted in a lot of flash floods. And that's one of the reasons. The other reason is, of course, climate change. But concretization and climate change, they go hand in hand. I was thinking, let's be positive and let's talk about the nice things about rain. So I guess the first drop of rain reminds me of if you are in Juhu or Vileparla or Andheri, then it used to be more civilized in the sense that it was more concrete and the rains also would be crystal clear. So I've had my first kiss in the rains, or rather, I've had my first rainy kiss on the Juhu beach. And that's magical. It's all very crazy actually. And so rains can be romantic, but back in school days, we used to, as soon as the climate started getting hotter, the weather became hotter in March, because we have spring. The hottest months in India are April and May, which are actually spring months, but then we have summer rains. So when it started getting hot after Holi, the festival of water, and we had to go and give our exams in the next 10-15 days, we liked it because we knew that if it gets hot enough, it'll be holidays soon. And sometimes I would stand on top of the Anand Society on the terrace, where the pickles are drying, the amlas and the I think amlas are called gooseberries, and the mangoes. And boy, I tell you, I think mulberry. Anyway, so they dry the pickles and then they add asafoetida and they add a lot of chilies and garlic and oil, and asafoetida is called hing in Hindi. Anyway, so they dry this and we stand on the terrace, me and my friends, and we sometimes do planchet and call the ghost. And the cold wind blows. And the cold wind blows. And while my friends love it, I hate it, because that means that I'll have to go back to Borivali, which means I'll have to go to school. So Borivali was not a place that I disliked, because I played a lot of games in Borivali, like different games. like Salyada, which was which we played with a spoke of a bicycle, or gilli danda, which was like cricket in many ways, and it was played with two sticks. But Borivali also meant that I had to go back to Don Bosco, and I hated it. The first days of school around the world, it tends to rain, and the atmosphere is very melancholic. Suddenly, the roads are filled with kids, and they're wearing their duckback raincoats with which are either black or khaki in color, and the rubber part is either inside or outside. And if it's outside, it's much better, because if it's inside, then the external part, which is a kind of semi-jute, semi-cotton, gets wet. Our bags were jute before they became a form of plastic bags. But there were no leather bags really. They were thick plastic bags, and we used to call them Rexine or what have you. But those were the days. I mean, school was a sentence to me of penal servitude. So when I was in my cousin's house in Kandivli, and he was my best friend for many years. Before, of course, he died. He was only 51. And I guess when we were at his house, it was a mango season where we eat a lot of mangoes in form of juice. And instead of dal, which is our staple soup, we have mangoes, and we dip our puris and rotis in mangoes. But it rained one day, out of turn, sometime on 15th of April. And we all went and splashed about and jumped about and danced and stuff, but we also hated it. And I guess that's life. Even our mango lost its flavor once the rains came in. The mangoes tasted different, and that's life.